Hi, Amy.
Hi,
Thanks for joining today. Where are you calling in from?
from Reno, Nevada.
Reno, Nevada. Not too far from where I'm at here in Tahoe.
Not too far.
Thanks for joining. Um, and we're going to talk about your experience with Mind's Eye and microdosing and any positive transformations that you've made for yourself during that time. Do you recall when you started using the product? When you first became
It's,
a customer?
I believe it was maybe in like March or April
Yeah,
even,
so late spring. And I believe you heard of us through one of your coworkers over at the yoga studio,
right?
right? And she referred you to us. We had a conversation back then. Um,
Hmm.
do you want to talk about what like Amy was like before Mind's Eye and microdosing, and maybe some of the life situations that you were navigating at the time? And
Yeah. Uh, thinking back, it seems such a long time ago, such a different state of mind. I had recently moved to Reno from Tahoe, and I have a little girl. She's 3. And at the time I reached out to you, I was going through a separation from my daughter's dad and a lot of things surrounding that. So I'm not, I haven't battled, thankfully, depression or I don't think addiction. I have, definitely dabbled with all of that. And I feel very grateful that my chemicals are somehow not made that way. But had this, I've always been a little bit snappy, and I was really feeling agitated and anxious, and I wasn't handling myself very yogi like, I would say. Um, so gosh, where do I go from here?
yeah, well, you said snappy. I mean, I get that. I'm snappy too. It's triggered, right? Other people
Triggered.
know that as triggered, and normally when we're triggered by people, places, and things, there's something within us that we need to look at and resolve, or point the finger back at ourselves, or look in the mirror and say, okay, where am I unhealed, or what am I learning from this snappiness or this trigger? And how obviously a clue that our nervous system is unregulated. And you said unyogi like. What do you, when I hear unyogi like, that is like you're not zen or chill, or
Or
you're not like Neo in the
present.
Matrix, where you're just letting things just go by you and nothing's bothering you. But we're still human
Yeah.
beings. We're not Neo, or we're
No,
not like.
actually, the yogis were trained to defend themselves, and they were warriors, warrior one, warrior two, warrior three, right? But only warrior when they needed to defend themselves. So
Right.
that's that could be a
From
whole
it,
other
from
conversation.
like real danger,
From real danger.
not like
Now,
someone saying
right, like
something to you that you disagree with. There's nothing
correct.
dangerous in that. Yeah.
Like walking down the path and somebody tried to attack them, then they could.
Yeah.
Not your ex, says something to you and then you say fuck you.
Right.
So um I've always had a problem with that my whole life. I've not, and this could be an even longer conversation, but I've always had a little bit of an issue with, popping off at the mouth when I could have thought about it first and maybe processed it a little. and, filtered what I was going to say. So at that time in my life, I was really struggling with it, and I was feeling very vulnerable, and I went back east to visit my family, and like looking back, I don't know who was correct or not, but I was feeling really like I like they were blaming me for my relationship not working out. And I got in a fight with my stepdad and my mom, and I think even my brother. I had a terrible visit with them, and I was feeling so defensive. And I needed something that was going to give me a pause, give me a
Mm,
filter. I knew that it was in there, but I had to face the situation. There was no like, oh, I can't have this person in my life anymore, so I'll just walk away. It wasn't like that. I have a kid, and a lot of things were happening. So, um, I feel like the medicine allowed really, it gave me the filter that I've never had. And it's been amazing. And it didn't happen right away. It was subtle, it's subtle,
yeah.
and it been over time. And I now feel like, are you ready for me to go here?
So you said filter. That's a great word, right? Instead of like, I think like in conversation, like how to filter words coming at you, right? Without attaching to
Mm-hmm.
words or feeling like that's a heavy situation being at home, being with your family, and then feeling threatened that your family is uh, blaming you for the demise of your relationship, right? Which they have, in reality, they have know nothing about, right?
Yeah.
Um, Perhaps feeling ganged up on and feeling small, and then the little Amy, right, inside adult Amy is feeling unloved and untrustworthy, and that's a heavy situation. Which Ram Dass would say, if you think that you're enlightened, go home and spend
Yeah.
3 days with your family, and you get a real
Truly.
dose of like, wow, there's a lot of trauma that goes on, and family did the best that they could to bring us into this world with the tools we needed to survive. But um, we can filter through that stuff and understand what's true for us. And uh, what came to mind was like the almost like the opposite of being a good filter is like attaching, right? Attaching the thoughts, attaching the words, attaching the situations, and then getting irritable and uh, snappy with people because we didn't have a good filter on, right? Or a
Right.
good lens to filter. And like, what's that? What was that like filter? If you could describe it, from like a feeling or an emotion, like what's that filter like? Like in a similar situation, with being blamed by family or having to converse with uh an ex that is a co-parent, right? How does that filter or filter and engage? I like to think of that as the next step, like filter, engage, right? Filter, engage, like sift through the stuff. Most of it is just BS. Most of it has no truth. Some of it does. And, instead of
Right.
attaching to all of that, you can engage with what you want to.
And it comes to like with having empathy and kind of being able to take a step back and look at the big picture rather than like always being on the defense.
Right. So being on the defense, protecting yourself from perceived threats, right? That's what I
First,
think about being on the defense. Perceived is the key word,
right.
right? It's not like the lion or the saber-toothed tiger is coming out, jumping at you to tear your head off,
Right.
right? And those are the
Maybe.
biological driving mechanisms of the fear that's been stored in our nervous system since the beginning of time,
Yeah.
right? So now you're filtering some of these perceived threats, you're pausing, you're being discerning on like what is true, right? For me, and then what is just a perceived threat, and like none of that's mine, right?
Yeah.
Or
A
return,
lot of that.
I have a good practice where I say return to sender,
A
or
lot of that.
control alt delete, like return to sender. It's not mine.
Yeah.
It's my mom's or my dad's and my grandma's,
I,
and
yeah. It's funny that you said that because I've been tapping into that so deeply that I feel like even like throughout my whole body, I'm like, this is not yours. This is probably from like kindergarten. Like, get off of me. You know, anything that I've been carrying around forever, I'm returning the sender. And
mm,
I truly feel it. Um, and I would like to credit it all to the medicine, right? Maybe it is. Who knows what's happening? There's a lot of shifts happening in the world in general, but it definitely kicked it off for me, and I will continue to use it
great.
because it
And
feels good. And well, I also went back to the East Coast and I had the most amazing visit with my family.
are you from an Italian family? If I
Jewish.
Jewish, saying it, Italians and
Same
Jews
here.
like sand in the beach. I'm from Sicilian family. I get all like loud and boisterous and
No
lots of finger
filter.
pointing and
No
guilting and
filters.
no filter, zero, right? And then you move, and I'm East Coast as well, like East Coast, you know, uh, Boston area. My mom's side of the family, so, um, a lot stuck in their ways, and East
Oh
Coast
yeah.
is much different.
Old
You
school
move out to
traditions.
California and you're like living the lifestyle, but there's still a lot of those claws in us from our upbringing, right? We didn't shed all those layers just because we went to yoga teacher training and became a yogi. I mean, we're having there's gentle reminders, right? The gentle reminders of like, oh, I've evolved. This is what I'm hearing. Like I've evolved from maybe my upbringing or some of those childhood traumas, and I'm evolving into a new way of life. But when we evolve into a new way of life and we want change, right? What I say yesterday on the webinar was like you can't have different without change, and it doesn't come so easy, right? It's like you want to change, but there's people that are like not so fast, Amy. Like we like you where you were before. Like we like that version of you. Like people create these versions of us in their own reality that aren't our truth. It's their perceived projection against us, and like the filter, I love that, like the filter you've been able to bring yourself by the use of the medicine, um, has allowed you to move forward in the ways that are true to your nature, right? Like
Yeah.
living your truth and not other people's, and that can be a tough point of discernment when we don't have the filter or the lens really sharpened, right? Or it's foggy or dampened. So I'm hearing it's like the use of the medicine has helped kind of sharpen the filter a bit for yourself.
It's allowed me to really step back and be the observer, which I've
Yes.
learned so much. I've read, learned, taken classes, but actually experiencing that and feeling it is it's awesome.
So great discernment of like you've learned a lot, you've read a lot, but you actually like feel it. So meaning you're putting the knowledge that you've gained into action, and that's the only
Yeah.
way we can really embody those practices is by Um,
Mhm.
so how old is your daughter, right?
Yeah, she's going to be 4 in April.
Wow.
She's cute and she's also very spicy. Um, and yeah, she's a handful, but it's helped me with her too. And I would even venture to say her dad and I are like pretty good friends. I mean, he even started microdosing and he started going to yoga.
Really?
Yeah. Not
Look
through
at
you.
that. You're
Of
becoming
course,
a
of
walking
course he wouldn't,
billboard for your
I
family.
guess. I mean, of course he wouldn't take my recommendation to call you, but he found his own person and um yeah, I would venture to say that we're friends.
That's good. Do you, do you attribute any of that towards your filter method or
100%.
the medicine and how you've been able to kind of take personal
Yeah,
responsibility for
big time.
yourself, right?
A lot of practices follow that, right? Like really paying attention to protecting my energy and really, having the intention when I walk into whatever the case may be or the space may be, uh, knowing I'm going back east, I'm going to visit my family again. I don't want what happened previously to ever happen again, and dropping expectations. It's just allowed me to really kind of start to walk the walk. Um, yeah, it's amazing.
Walking the walk. Well, I like that. It's you're making a positive ripple effect on those around you.
Yeah.
And even though you and the father of your daughter are not together, like you said, you still have to interact. You still have to be cordial with one another. Hopefully, you can develop a new relationship that's transcended from the one that you had when you were together. And that is only going to be a positive effect for the upbringing of your daughter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Think of how many parents are out there that are struggling to even get
I
into a
do.
co-parenting agreement or they're separated and how it affects the well-being of the children.
I
It's
know.
a
Yeah,
travesty.
truly.
So,
I
um,
went through that as a child. So, and I think he did too. So it's like we definitely don't want that for our daughter, but it was heading in that direction, and now it's kind of great. I mean, we've spent time as a family. There's not a chance of us rekindling that at all, but just to show her so much love and that we are friends and that we can hang out. It's really awesome and it's pretty rare, I would venture to say.
yeah. So if you both went through that, and it sounds like you're doing a good service for yourselves, your daughter, but also uh, your own parents, whether they know that or not, you're kind of like the buck stops here. Whether
Mm-hmm.
that's a conscious effort or not. It sounds very conscious on your end, and now your ex-husband is kind of embodying that more on his own, and I'm really happy to hear that for both of you
Yeah.
and your daughter, of course. What's your daughter's name again?
Her name is Emmeline Moon.
Emmeline Moon. Cute.
It
Um,
was my grandmother's name, Emmeline.
oh, nice.
Yeah.
Uh, as far as oh, hey, being single mom, do you work from home?
Yes.
And like, has any of this contributed to your workflow or um,
Hmm.
focus? I mean, like meaning meaning when we
Work
can
is a
dampen the
different beast.
noise and cut through a lot of the BS of anxiousness and personal life stuff. It's a little bit easier to focus on work, whether we really enjoy the work we do or not. Um,
I'm able to kind of let it flow a little bit more, I think, and just trust that what's meant to happen will happen. My work is a whole different thing, but it's okay. I think it allows me to have better relationships with people that I have to work with and, you know, be be calm for clients, I think, a little calmer for them. I mean, there's a lot of balls in the air sometimes and people
yeah.
get frustrated and I don't find myself doing that often anymore.
Mm, I need to microdose more then. I have a lot of balls in the air, getting frustrated. Like I had one of my teammates right before this call. I had to be like, why did I look at that text? Uh, I mean, you understand like technology and stuff. We have so many different platforms that we use. We have CRM platform, email marketing platform. We have website builders. We have funnel builders. We have the Zoom. We have landing page builders. The court. We have a new course, so that's on an e-learning platform, but it doesn't have all the features that I want. So there's a new e-learning platform that's um, it's all in one. So you have your like customer chat, you have your community member chat, you have like groups, you can put the courses on there. So it's actually centralized where you're not like, oh, there's a Facebook group and then a Slack channel, and then this is where you get your courses. And he was upset that he called it platform bloat is the word he used. He said it's abusive. Stop with the platform bloat. And I just sent the laughing sideways face emoji at him.
It's hard. I mean,
So
it's
yeah, I get it. Lots of balls in there, lots of tech
I,
in there, lots of emotions and personalities, and it's like juggling it all can be challenging.
it's challenging and I feel a little bit more like less like it's not all roses and peaches and unicorns, you know. I have a manager that I really have trouble working with. I don't like him. And I finally like kind of like stood up for myself. And I told somebody else, I was like, listen, I don't want to take him to HR. I don't, you know, I'm just letting you know I don't want to work for him anymore. So when you make your changes or whatever's happening, if you could just keep in mind that I'd like to work for someone else, I really appreciate that. And I was able to really like articulate it in a way that made sense, I think. And I feel like that change will happen for me next year. So I didn't have to like blow things up or go to, make such a big deal. I just
Turn,
said, hey, I'm
yeah,
not doing this anymore.
straight, direct, right?
Yeah.
Personal power, personal sovereignty, like not turning a mouse turd into a mountain, right? It's like this is what I need, and hopefully you can honor that. So that's discovering a piece of your own, maybe your own voice that you
Yeah.
didn't know it was there, or may have been baffling to handle that situation previously. Then you intuitively managed it in a way that um, probably was best for everybody, right? I've heard some
And
horror
same for
stories
you. Like
recently.
you made light of it. I mean, you could have said something snappy back to him, right? You could
Yeah,
have.
it's hard not to, coming
Mhm.
from East Coast families
Yeah.
like that, right? It's like that was
People
kind of
take it
snappy what
the
I
wrong
did, like the
way.
emoji laughy face. That was like subtle snappy. But
Right.
after this call, I'm going to say, hey, I'm open for a conversation so you can express your concerns to me and let me tell you why we're going to use this platform. I appreciate your concern, but,
Right.
but, right. So,
Thank you for the helpful
um,
hint.
yeah. So, yeah, it's all words, the way we use words, the way we construct them, uh, and then just say the thing that needs to be said and pause.
Mhm.
Right. That's always a good one. Um, Well, awesome. And if there's anyone, out there listening to this, do you have any recommendations or positive affirmations to recommend to people, for of the product? And I think they've heard a lot of good uh, testimony here of how it could, do good things for their lives, whatever people are experiencing. But most people experience the same, you know, hardships and character defects of triggers and snappiness and people and human resources and relationships. It really kind of, when you funnel it down, it's all in just a few buckets or containers that most people are operating in that need insistence with. So if there's any, final thoughts or
I say, I think you said this yesterday on the webinar, but it's not immediate. You have to give it the full course and have patience and realize that it's subtle and you still have to do the other work along with it. But uh, over time, I think it works.
yeah. So then like thank you for reaffirming that. Like it's not immediate, it's not overnight, it's not a magic pill, it's not this panacea, it's not the take this for that mentality. And it's using it as a tool and doing the work with it and embodying the work, or what we talked about is like putting the things you've learned into action and practicing it. And then
I'll
once you
say to
practice
you,
it and see the results or feel the results, it's like, oh, that really wasn't that difficult to talk to the HR person and
I
navigate
mean,
that situation.
when I met you, I had already gone to my general practitioner and I had a prescription for antidepressants. And I was like, what do I do? Which one? Like, and I said, okay, I'll do the mushroom, the microdose for, I'll give this a try first. But even like maybe in the first month, I was like, I think I need these things. Like, and I never took them. And I mean, some people probably do need them, and I think both could be helpful. But at this point now, I think where are we like 6 months later, I don't feel depressed at all. Like I have my moments of things, but I'm generally like feeling good.
Awesome. Yeah.
So
We all have our moments. We all have our things. Most people wouldn't trade their problems for other people's problems. Right. And like it's easy for us to sit there and spin out on our own obstacles in our way. The chances are most of us wouldn't trade our stuff for other people's. And that's just the fact. Um, so learning how to be with our own stuff is important, or being comfortable, being uncomfortable. So proud of you. Great work. It's
thank you.
awesome to catch up and keep doing what you're doing and being a good example for you, your daughter, your co-parent, and your family and your extended
Yeah.
family. Like just be the walking billboard for all to see. So
Mm.
thanks for joining us today, Amy.